Yeah, we're almost ready to start. I'm just going to share the link to the live stream in our community chat, and then we're all good to go. So, welcome to today's live video AMA. It's the last edition of the year, also the 10th edition in this series. And I'm again happy to be joined here by some of my colleagues. So for those that don't know me, my name is Raymond van der Waal. I'm head of strategic partnerships at Triall, and I'm joined here today by our CEO Hadil Esbai, our CTO Niels Klomp, and our Chief Medical Officer Dr. Arno Bisschop.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. Thanks for hosting, Ray.
Problem. So similar to the last 9 sessions, we will start with pre-submitted questions that have come in over the past couple of days. And for those that are watching live today, please do ask questions either on the YouTube chat function or through Telegram. And we will make sure to cater to those questions at the second part of the AMA. But for now, we will start with the pre-submitted questions, and I am just going to kick off straight away. What are the merits and demerits of decentralized clinical trials, which is a tech-based model, compared to traditional study models? How cost-effective is a decentralized clinical trial? And can you tell us some of the decentralized clinical trial tools available at Triall? Hadil, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. So again, welcome everybody to this AMA. It's the last of the year. We're really excited to see the kind of questions that you guys have for us. And I think this is a good question because it's really, it touches upon the core of what we do at Triall. So there are several reported advantages or benefits of decentralized clinical trials. First of all, if you can operate in a decentralized manner, it means that you expand on the possibilities of gathering data. In the context of a clinical trial, basically means that you can widen your patient pool, and you can better facilitate the fact that research is being done more and more outside the classical hospital setting. It also increases the convenience and the comfort for patients to participate in a clinical trial, because they can also participate from the comfort of their own home. And also, it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of how we collect data. The cost effectiveness of decentralized clinical trials, I think that was the second element of the question. So we see that it can reduce the cost and effort related to patient recruitment, because again, we take away one of the barriers for patients, but also healthy volunteers to take part of clinical trials. If again, we can facilitate the collection of data from basically everywhere, different devices, but also different places. So it really helps with the engagement of patients and also makes the lives of investigators and research nurses easier across the board, if implemented correctly. So we see that decentralized clinical trial tools, and there are many of them, in different shapes and sizes and forms and functionalities, that they have become across the board increasingly more sophisticated in the past 2 decades, and leading to more and more efficiency. And we think that this trend is not going to stop. So in line with that, we also have now our own toolkit, our ecosystem of decentralized clinical trial applications. To just name a few, electronic consenting module, electronic patient-reported outcome. We have the capability to perform virtual visits. We can integrate with all kinds of wearables. So looking forward 2023 and beyond, we know that this trend of decentralization in terms of data capture, but also the management of patient care and oversight of clinical trials will continue to grow. And that will result in the continuous adaptation, I would say, of different decentralized clinical trial tools. And we're very happy to be able to serve both decentralized clinical trial functionalities, but also more traditional clinical trials that maybe don't have a very high extent of decentralization, or more in a hybrid setting, where a part of the research still being done at the site, which also has its own value, and a part can be done from anywhere at any time.
Thank you, Adil. I think the key word is really decentralization here. And as we have already mentioned in a previous AMA, there are many angles to decentralization. And it's for sure going to be exciting to see how in clinical trials, in particular, data capture and patient management will not be the only things that are being decentralized, but that we can hopefully also move towards a model where stuff such as data ownership and data exchange are being decentralized. But we will save that for another time. I'm going to jump to the next question. And if it's okay, I'm going to hand this one over to you, Arno. The question is as follows. Is Triall a project aimed at a specific region or country? Or is yours a project that was born with the intention of achieving global adoption from the beginning? Is there any geographical limitation for the use of your platform?
Well, thanks, Ray. And again, thanks for hosting this session just so short before the holidays start. So thanks. And I'm also glad that the cat of Niels is back in the frame, because I think he wasn't there for quite a while. So good to have him back. I think it's a multi-layered answer to this question. I think that because obviously we are a Dutch-based company, so our primary focus at the beginning was at the EU, but it shifted rapidly towards obviously the US, especially with our cooperation with the Mayo Clinic and with the CDS as our partners. So we are a company that has a global focus. But I think that it could also be inverted, the answer, because I think that the current situation doesn't really involve global adaptation. And I think that because of Triall, we are able to do so because of SSI technology, etc., just to serve the remote areas globally with clinical research, with patient engagement, with being able to be part of a study. So I think it really inverted in a way. I think that at first we had obviously a focus on the Netherlands, the European Union, and then the US. But I think if we move further, then we are able as Triall members to go to remote areas as well. And I think then we are really pushing the envelope there, because I don't think it's really possible at this point. So I'm really enthusiastic about that part, particularly of Triall.
Yeah, I very much agree, Arno. Thank you so much for that answer. I have another question that is a little bit related to this one, and I'll be happy to answer it. The project's target market of Triall is characterized by rapid digitalization, decentralization, and double-digit growth. Can you give explicit solutions you have in place to achieve this target? Well, again, this is also a very multi-layered question. I think it's good to give a bit more context as to what is currently evolving in the clinical trial market. So you see that, for instance, according to global data, about 79% of healthcare professionals either have a digital transformation strategy in place or are working towards one. And if you would then further zoom in, you see that preclinical and clinical research are considered as the processes where digital transformation can add most value. So this is something that is recognized widely across the industry. And that, of course, opens up a lot of opportunities for a company like Triall. Well, like Adil mentioned at the beginning of the AMA, you also see that an increasing body of sponsors and CROs are exploring hybrid and decentralized clinical trial models. So that's also an angle that we'd like to take when talking to customers, our ability to service all types of clinical trials and to provide them with a custom configuration of modules that fits their specific trial needs. So in these conversations, we really position Triall as a strategic partner that can help with both digitalization and decentralization, and help these partners with running their clinical programs, realizing their strategic objectives, where we can offer both the software tools, but where we can also offer supporting services to our network of CROs. So in that sense, we really want Triall to be bigger than just a software shop, even though that's something we really want to drive in. We want to be able to be a one-stop shop for all trial-related software and services. Bringing me to the next question. And this is a question related to our underlying technology stack. So if you don't mind, Niels, I'm going to hand this one over to you. Do you think it would be more secure and efficient to store trial data in Triall's own blockchain in the future?
Great question. I will try to keep my answer short today because otherwise I will be upsetting Arnold's girlfriend. So let's not do that. Just kidding. So actually, we early on decided not to do that. And that's the main reason for that is that, well, I have been in the blockchain space for quite a while, have been involved on the sidelines in multiple projects. And what you typically see is that projects that try to do both, so basically creating the layer one themselves, but also then trying to serve their customers on a layer two solution, for instance, they always have to balance basically between putting effort into layer one and layer two. And what we decided was to partner up with some layer one blockchains and to basically on the sidelines work with those parties in for instance, getting some features that we need in there. So for instance, if you talk about the LTO network, they've added a feature which we need for our SSI solution in order to communicate between different SSI agents and SSI parties. And for instance, if you talk about Factum, which is now called Accumulate, for instance, there's a really strong identity support built into the new protocol, as well as the fact that data can be sort of separated like paths, like directory structures. That's basically something that I, together with the chief architect of the protocol, sort of, well, invented, I guess is the correct word in this case. Which completely changes around how you store data on a blockchain, and it's completely unique in the blockchain space. So this allows us to focus basically all of our attention on the layer two, on our customers' problems, and then basically having the layer one projects working on their core layer one solution. So it was a deliberate choice, and then the question whether it would be more secure and efficient. To be honest, because of the nature of what I tried to explain, I don't think it would be. Does that mean that we would rule out that we would ever create a layer one? No, it doesn't rule it out. But on the other hand, we really would have to hit some limitations in the current layer one solutions that we are using. And then we might think about it, but it's not something that we would do just for the sake of having a layer one project.
Yeah, thank you so much, Niels. I think there's a clear symbiotic relationship between enterprise blockchains, layer one solutions, and the enterprises themselves. Both cannot exist without the other. So, yeah, fully agree with your answer. I'm gonna jump to the next question, and you already very briefly touched upon this. So someone is asking if we could explain in further detail what the Factum protocol is and why this protocol is important to Triall. So maybe you could give a very brief recap of some of the events that evolved over the past, and maybe tell a bit more about what it is right now, because it's not Factum anymore.
Yeah, sure. So the Factum protocol is, or was, I should say, one of the oldest blockchain protocols. And Factum basically had a completely different model than any blockchain that was there before. So the Factum protocol specifically allowed for data storage. You can sort of compare it a little bit with IPFS. It's different, but you can store data in there. And one of the nice things about the Factum protocol is that you could basically create your own data structures on there. So as an organization or as a cohort of organizations working together, you could basically say or agree to a certain data structure or multiple data structures, and then you could accommodate those on the Factum blockchain in your exchange of data. And that was completely unique. That also meant that there was and is quite a bit of interest from different governments, for instance, across the globe. So, for instance, in the United States, there's several United States departments. So, for instance, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Energy, and another one. It was military related. I don't know the exact department anymore. And in the Netherlands, for instance, also certain cities and certain central governments that actually used the Factum protocol. And one of the key things that next to this data separation is also that the Factum protocol allows for having fixed costs. So that's pretty important if you want to budget as an enterprise for your blockchain usage. Of course, you need to know how much is it going to cost you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the cheapest, but you definitely need to know that it's relatively stable. And with an awful lot of blockchain projects, especially back in the days, there was not really a sort of a stable entry price. So it could mean that for the same data that you were processing today, that the prices could be 3 or 4 times as high, let's say in 2 or 3 or 4 months. So that was the Factum protocol. What happened with the Factum protocol is that since it was such an early protocol, basically a completely redesigned protocol was created, also using some of the latest advancements in blockchain technology and consensus mechanisms, and even more highlighting the strengths of data separation. So basically being able to separate data into sort of a folder-like structure, but also making identities a really strong and first-class citizen in Accumulate. And Accumulate is the successor to Factum. So it's a completely redesigned protocol, but all of the data of the Factum protocol basically is imported when the Accumulate protocol went live. So Accumulate is seeing a lot of interest also from different enterprises, and it looks like in 2023, when the Accumulate protocol really should have most of its features ready, there will be several larger companies already that are standing by on the sidelines that really want to jump on. And of course, we as Triall have been working closely also with the people behind that protocol, both on the technical level as well as on the governance level. So we're really involved in that protocol, and that indeed ties back to the previous question. So yes, we do spend some time working together with the layer 1 solutions, but we're not actually developing it ourselves. We help out where we can, but there's other parties working on those layer 1s.
Yeah, very clear answer. Thank you, Niels. And,
still a bit long, so sorry, Arno.
It's certainly exciting to keep following all of the developments happening at Accumulate. I'm going to jump to the next question. How does Triall intend to bridge the gap between the world of cryptocurrencies and the world of clinical trials? Adil.
Well, that's quite an existential question, I would say. So yes, there definitely is a gap, but we see that these worlds are really enabling each other. And we see that being successful on the clinical side means that we will also be successful on the crypto side and vice versa. Because TRL token for us is really the essential building block for our data exchange vision. And therefore, next year we will present a roadmap, an updated roadmap that explains in more and ongoing detail how we foresee the further build out of our platform, including the utilities of the Triall token. And we already see that in our global community of 2,300 token holders, I believe, that some of these are already supporting us with building traction in the clinical world. So rather than speaking of the gap, we really like to see the synergy between these two worlds and also come up with tangible assets or ways to make sure that this synergy is really translating into meaningful products for clients and also for the benefits of the development and the value of the Triall token.
Thank you, Adil. Oh, that actually brings me to a question that's very much related to that, and I'll be happy to touch a bit more on this. As a holder of TRL, I would be interested to be more involved with TRL, although I'm not a developer. Are there any initiatives next year where you will try to engage more with TRL holders? Well, the simple answer is yes. We do want to involve the community more in the sales and marketing of Triall. We have many community members that are active in healthcare, either have a background in healthcare, that are actively working in clinical trials, that might have family members active in healthcare. So the network is really far-reaching in that way. In terms of the level of involvement, this could really be anything from helping with spreading awareness to supporting with the selling of our software, so the applications that we offer. And as Adil has also mentioned in the end of the year video message that went out today, we will be launching a new website in January next year, so January 23. And that website again will also support community members with spreading the word about Triall. So yeah, make sure to keep an eye on our Twitter and our Telegram, and we will make sure to keep all of the community members and TRL token holders informed. And we will follow up with further info on any initiatives on which they can collaborate. That brings me to the last question. And again, this is a technical one. So Niels, I'm going to hand this one over to you. The question is as follows. Triall focuses mainly on medical research and purposes, while implementation of medical researchers and NFTs too. And if so, can you tell us your plans to integrate NFTs with medical purposes? Niels. So I guess the question is mostly related to will we integrate NFTs into our product offering? I think that's what was meant with the question.
Yeah. Could you clarify, because you were breaking up a bit? So I think that everyone now understands the question. For now, we probably won't. And one of the reasons is that NFTs are a really nice technology. On the other hand, it's not really a well-defined technology. And with that, I mean an interoperable, fully spec'd out, compliant solution, which is adopted by one of the standardization organizations in the world. Next to that, with NFTs, there's also typically a pretty strong binding to the underlying layer 1 platform. And what we've done is we have adopted and created SSI technology and are creating SSI technology that is working together with the blockchain. So it's using so-called decentralized identifiers on a blockchain. It can do anchoring on a blockchain to provide proofs But at the same time, we are using verifiable credentials, and that has very much to do with the fact that you want to have attributes, and attributes could be about your identity, it could be about a product, it could be about the clinical trial itself. You don't necessarily want to have all of these attributes on a blockchain, because one of the key issues, of course, is privacy. You don't want to have any personally identifiable information on a blockchain. So, for instance, attributes about, let's say, myself, I'm born at a certain date, I live in a certain location. Those are attributes which belong to my identity, and those are not something you want to sell. Well, there's been some recent advancements in soulbound tokens, for instance, that basically make a non-fungible token not transferable. But still, some of the problems with the privacy are still prevalent there. And of course, the interoperability point that I described is a really big and important thing. And the technology we are developing is, for instance, standardized in the W3C, which is the Internet Standards Organization. It is, for instance, also standardized in the OpenID Foundation. It's now, for instance, in Europe. The EU basically has and is working on their new regulation, which is about AEDAS, which is about the basically a single European market, a digital market. And as part of that, there's also what is called the European Identity Wallet. And the European Identity Wallet is using some technologies and some specifications, which we are also developing. So we are actually one of the few parties that would be able to support those specifications, and we are actually leading right now in supporting those specifications. So we're working with large organizations also to ensure that those specifications advance and that our implementation and solutions are working according to those specifications. So long answer short, right now we are not supporting NFTs. We might in the future, but only if there's a really clear use case that would really warrant an NFT and which we cannot solve with using the decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials. Because last thing, for instance, an NFT, you see that, for instance, as authentication mechanisms being used, or as, let's say, concert tickets. All of those things can be done in a more privacy-preserving way using DID and verifiable credential technology, which then again is also interoperable and according to standards. So there you have it, I guess.
Yeah, no, very much. I think this is some great insights, especially for those that are not really up to date on the whole decentralized identifier and verifiable credential movement, I would almost say. So yeah, superior interoperability, more standardization, and being able to be flexible and not tied to one layer one solution. I think those are all very valid and important arguments.
And privacy, really important one. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. That has brought us to the end of this AMA. So yeah, we'd like to thank all of our community members for their continued support. And we very much look forward to continuing along this journey into 2023.
Happy holidays, everybody. Looking forward.
Good holidays.
Yes, happy holidays, and see you next year.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Niels. Thanks, Adil.